You're listening to the Ringer NBA show presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during an NBA playoff game, even after tip-off. Just look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back, relax, and track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. And if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier, and joining me, Rob Mahoney, Big Waz. I feel like we should just be piling towels on top of Rob right now, like they did with Mark Dagnall. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm waiting. Guys, I'm right here ready to be toweled up. I will be singing your praises and then stop on a dime to talk about how immature you're being in the same breath.
Unfortunately, that was probably the highlight of tonight's Game 5 victorious win for the Oklahoma City Thunder, punched the finals ticket. The Wolves scored 9 points in the first quarter, and it was pretty much over from there. I guess we could go through the Ousmane Dieng minutes if you really want to, because at this point, I feel like we've got a real robust scouting report. But Waz, this one seemed pretty much in hand after the big win in Game 4. Just seems like that carried over into this one.
Yeah, there was no fight whatsoever from the Timberwolves. Got to give it to OKC. They came out and took it deadly serious and played like their lives depended on it, particularly on defense, as they have essentially the entire playoffs at this point. But I don't know. This Wolves team seemed like a team that had their bags packed for Cabo or the Bahamas or wherever guys, or south of France, wherever guys are vacationing these days. These guys had their swim trunks nicely folded, tank tops ready, flip-flops, all of that. The portable speaker, it's all packed and ready for the vacation that these guys are about to go on.
Can I follow up on that real quickly? Can we do the bag packs power rankings? Like, who was most ready to hit the jet and go straight to Cancun after this one on the Wolves side?
I mean, Julius Randle definitely was one of them. And I got to say, Ant Edwards, I'm talking to some of my group chats and guys like, yo, come on, man. Like, they're loading up on the guy. There's only so much he can do. I'm like, fair, but nah, no excuses. Play like a champion. Like, I'm sorry. There was a lot of turnovers, dribbling off his foot. Like, he just wasn't locked in. Obviously, I think the best defenses are going to make it way difficult on him. But guess what, man? If you're supposed to be a superstar and one of the best players in the NBA, you got to overcome that kind of stuff, man. You got to make the help more predictable, clunkier. You got to be smarter whenever, teams decide that they're going to load up on you. And I don't think Ant did a good job of that tonight. Didn't do a good job of it basically all series long. And so, yeah, I think Ant was super disappointing this game and probably this entire series.
Yeah, he wasn't good enough. And it wasn't just the turnovers you're talking about, Waz. It was like trying to make basic one pass away routine passes and just like getting picked off. That's not it. That's not what you want from any player on your team in this situation. It's certainly not what you want from your superstars. Ant wasn't good enough. Julius Randle wasn't good enough. The Timberwolves were just not precise enough as a team. They are not precise enough as a team to beat a defense like this and break it down consistently over 7 games. They're going to have explosive moments. We've seen how high the Wolves' highs can be. They just didn't have it in them to meticulously work the Thunder defense over and over and over and over. And frankly, in their defense, I'm not sure who does.
Yeah, I guess on the flip side of this, if you're going to play devil's advocate for the Timberwolves, it's that the Thunder seem to be growing as the playoffs go on. I feel like they're almost closing in on their final, complete form, to the point where in that Game 4, it seemed like SGA, Chet, J-Dub all were working in concert in a way that they hadn't before. Like Chet in particular had some moments where he would kind of coast for a quarter or two, then pop late, mostly on the defensive end. But offensively, it just seemed like all three were optimized in the way they weren't earlier in the playoffs. 95 points in that game 4 together. Tonight, 75 points, and they all had like all around games that just look so complete. And so like, damn, Woz, it just feels like the Thunder just keep getting better and better, just like even when whatever obstacle gets thrown at them this postseason.
Yeah, I think that was the coolest thing about the Denver series, honestly, is that Denver made these guys work their asses off, had them flummoxed with a zone. Now, like, it feels like if you throw a zone at OKC, you're making a huge mistake, right? Made them figure out, like, different ways of guarding Jokic to the point where in Game 7, they're like, screw it, we got Alex Caruso for his ass. Like, they just keep coming up with answers to the tests. And, by the time they get to Minnesota, it's like, all right, we've seen zones. We've seen, superstars go crazy, and then we come back and we make adjustments. And, we've seen our guys go through streaky moments in terms of getting left wide open. And, we're staying the course this time. And I just think, going through the Nuggets specifically, like that test was such a hard one for them, and them coming out of it. And, not just some of the tactical stuff that Denver did and forced them to adjust to. It's these guys having to execute down the stretch of like 3 4th quarters in a row and actually doing it. And now understanding and having the confidence that there's no situational basketball that they're going to be flummoxed by. I think that was, a big deal, man. And, granted, they almost lost that freaking series, right?
They did.
Like, that's the thing about the playoffs. Like, they went 7 games, and there were more than a few games that they came back in the 4th quarter to win. This could have been them losing in the second round all over again, but because they basically had the grit to overcome, now, the skies is the limit for what these guys can do.
What I'm hearing from both of you, Justin, in terms of the triangulation of their stars, Woz in terms of that grit and like forcing their way through really competitive games, announced by the Thunder officially making the NBA Finals tonight, it feels like the Thunder era is officially here, finally officially here. A 68-win team, 12-4 in the playoffs, the reigning MVP, an all-time defense, one of the younger rosters in the league. This is a team clearly built to be good for a long time. It's also a team that we've been kind of waiting to take these incremental steps. And Woz, for you specifically, have the Thunder shown you, Wosny Lambre, all that you need to see? You've been a skeptic at various points. Are you satisfied with the Thunder experience?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think this flip for me was definitely Game 5 of the Nuggets series, where they just have a monster 4th quarter that could have easily gone the other way against them. And it's like, holy smokes, like these guys are down 3-2, and now, they got to win 2 in a row against a team that's just beat them up a bunch of times. And the fact that they flipped the paradigm in that series, they go on to lose to Denver in Game 6 and have to come back and show improve in Game 7. But Game 5 of that series, particularly the way that it happened, the way they had to be super clutch in a pivotal game like that, basically flips the series on its head. That's when I was like, all right, man, the Thunder are here. And, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, the Wolves were a 7th seed and blah, blah, blah. And that,
Wolves are good.
I love how we play these games, but the truth of the matter is people were calling the Lakers a finals team, okay? They beat the hell out of that team. Okay, look, the Lakers obviously weren't that good, but that's not what we were saying before. The Wolves made them look horrible. Golden State, I think, would have probably gave them a hell of a series. It sure looked like it in Game 1 before Steph tweaked his hammy. All right, cool. You can say what you want to say about that. But also, this is the same team that we said owned the Nuggets. Like, the Nuggets damn near beat OKC. If they played the Nuggets, many people would have been like, why shouldn't they beat the Nuggets? Like, I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo what OKC has done. Like, they've beaten people's brains in. I'm sorry. Like, they have my respect. Now they got to do it in the finals.
We're all just saying shit. We were saying shit in the first round, saying that the Lakers might win the finals. We were saying shit in the second round, like Denver might win the finals. Yep. Wolves might win the finals. We're all just saying shit all the time.
The Clippers might win the finals.
They all might.
Yes. yes, we all have to consider these possibilities. We have so many podcasting hours to fill. I can't imagine being on ESPN to the point where you have to talk about like whether or not a guy's home life matters about whether he's ready for the moment. Like there's just a lot going on simultaneously. So I get it. But I think the through line for all of us was that the Thunder looked dominant pretty much from the start of the season, even after losing their centers, and they look dominant right on the precipice of the finals right now.
Do you have a take on that though, Justin, on the state of the family man in the NBA vis-a-vis the decline of the nuclear family in America?
Yeah, exactly. Now, if we want to talk about America, then
I think everyone should be opening to a lot of different opportunities is what I would say. That's what I've learned in my time here in the Pacific Northwest.
I respect that about you.
Opportunistic. That's what we say this time of year.
Well, the Thunder have certainly been that. They have taken every opportunity in front of them. They forced quite a few. As far as like drilling down on why this series went the way it did. Total turnovers in this series. 87 for the Wolves, 67 for the Thunder. Points off of those turnovers. 108 points for the Thunder off of Wolves turnovers, 77 from Minnesota. A 31-point swing on the turnovers alone in this series. That's kind of the whole thing. And it's impossible to watch OKC play and not think, at least for me, this just seems like the worst team to possibly play against. Like the absolute like games from hell are the games where you can't even get the ball inside the 3-point line because the pressure and the ball hawks are just, they're everywhere. It feels like every pass someone could descend on it. And the Thunder have that effect on you psychologically. I thought it was really telling in this game that not only are they picking off passes, not only are they catching Julius Randle from the blind side, like Naz Reid is dribbling off his own foot. Like they are just in these guys' heads to a degree that I think is self-destructive at a certain point for the Wolves.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in this concept of a leap, right? Like I kind of think that humans aren't a fixed asset and things just fluctuate all the time. Like teams that we thought were just going to like all of a sudden go from this point to the next point, it really like continues down that continuum. It's all like, it's a roller coaster, man. It's a flux.
So you don't believe in actual human progress, just sinusoidal fluctuation.
I do in the broad sense, but perhaps not without some fluctuations along the way. It's not a clear A to B, right? There's going to be some jostling in between. But I have to say, like, in the midst of this particular run, it's been hard to argue the contrary, especially because of the way that they dispatched the Wolves here, but also the way that, like, even home court has become an advantage for them. So like after that big triumphant game 4, they give the best performance probably I've seen from this core. Haymaker for haymaker. You would think like, oh, maybe there's a letdown coming. They came out and just knocked the shit out of the Wolves from minute 1 in that game to the point where, Naz fell over like twice within the first 3 minutes. Overall, home court for the Thunder, which I think is going to be a big thing going forward, Wads, like they have lost 1 game so far in OKC in the playoffs. That was the OT game against Denver, game 2, in which Gordon hit the 3 to send it into overtime. So, like, good luck to Indiana, whomever comes next, because that's like another advantage that we're piling on top of all the progress they're making.
Yeah, I mean, Trae Young said they're a lot louder than MSG, so I believe in the home court.
Son of Oklahoma? Who better to believe than Trae Young?
I do love that arena. That arena rocks.
An incredible playoff crowd, genuinely. As have most of for the Final Four, this has been a great group of home crowds that are just like, that elevate exponentially in the playoffs, right? Like Minnesota, that's been a hotbed of disgusting basketball for so long. They have just seized on the opportunity with this team being good. And I want to say this about the Wolves too. Like, they disappointed tonight in a huge way. They did not show up. Basically everyone except maybe Terrence Shannon just like did not do their job to an adequate degree. I also want to make sure we acknowledge that even with that being said, this is a really cool run for the Wolves. This is still a good result. Like getting to the Western Conference Finals in back-to-back seasons is an incredible accomplishment. And we're seeing, where the limitations are for this group, which is a different one from last year after reshuffling Cat for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and all the other kind of smaller moves along the way. But you've seen the highs. Like we've seen how incredible this team can be, how formidable their defense can be. Some of the, the growth, although it's not necessarily in a straight line that Anthony Edwards has made over the course of these playoffs, he's just not quite up to the Thunder defensive standard yet. And that's okay. But I'm still really impressed by this Wolves run.
Yeah, I mean, to get back what Justin was saying earlier, about leaps and stuff. I think, so long as Jalen Williams, the wing, and Shea and Chet are on this team, it would be hard for anybody to convince me that they won't be a threat to make the NBA Finals and win it, right? That to me, that's a leap. Like that's a big deal, right? And I thought we were getting there with Dallas last year, But like Minnesota, it's funny because I think OKC, Presti deserves a lot of credit for. All right, cool. Like nobody knew Shea was going to turn into the best player in the NBA. But like, drafting two guys and Jalen Williams and Chet that seemed like franchise cornerstones. And, now they got a bunch of picks so they could always fill out the roster for cheap. Yeah. That's a nice big deal. Like they're never going to be able to do a Hartenstein move again. But whatever. They might not have to,
We'll just draft them. Yeah.
And look, they haven't won the championship yet. Whatever. Minnesota's been to the conference finals 2 years in a row. Like, what are we saying is the core of that success? Like
Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert too, I think is part of that core, although a more complicated piece.
Are we saying that?
I think the better question is like, would they have been better off keeping Cat around and having a Cat Edwards core going forward versus what they did, which has opened up options in order to figure things out on the fly. I ultimately kind of defer to that one, if only because we're seeing kind of the messy situation you get with Cat, where he's so awesome at times, and he was great this season, probably his best all-around performance this regular season. He's going to make All-NBA, or he did make All-NBA for that reason. But you get into this situation where it's like, oh, do we go double bigs? Do we have him at center and just basically punt defense? I think once you get to this level of competition, you're going to keep finding yourself in that.
Yeah, I think it's tough with the bigs that they have. Not just Cat presents that problem, but yeah, Julius Randle kind of sometimes does too. Naz Reid certainly does too. These tethers of like, do we need to go inside or out? Like, do we need to prioritize offense or defense? Do we need ultimately like to get more actual playmaking on the floor? Ant did not deliver in this game and certainly did not exert himself in a creative capacity to a really impressive degree. It's also just like really hard for him to do anything against this Thunder defense. And some of that is because the secondary creation, you're either going with Naz Reid, who we said has been dribbling off his foot in this game, Julius Randle, who turned the ball over a ton throughout this series, or Mike Conley, who's just outclassed athletically when you play a team like the Thunder. It just like does not have a lot he can offer off the dribble. Those are like the next best creative options for the Wolves once you get past Ant. Or you get into like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo territory. And those guys had great moments in the series, but you don't want them dominating the ball. It's going to be hard for the Wolves to get past this point so long as Julius Randle, even at his best, is like the second best player on this team. I just think they're going to keep bumping up against this limitation unless they happen to meet opponents in the playoffs who can't exploit some of the inattention in his game. Some of the fact that he can be a little sloppy with the ball, that he can get a little wild with his passes, that he can get a little loose with his dribble. It's just, you can't have two stars that both do that. And Ant does that, but he earns it with everything else. Julius Randle does it. He's very productive, but we've seen even in this run kind of what the cost of some of that productivity can be.
Yeah. Who's his running mate? Because as we've seen, even if we're not going to a big
Rudy
three
Gobert,
system,
according to Rob Mahoney,
that's the problem.
I'm not going that far.
He's the second pillar of the
I think
franchise.
It's Jalen McDaniels, and unfortunately, as much progress as he's made this postseason offensively, he's just not going to be that type of guy that you could turn to as a number two. And so, like, they almost have everything else figured out. They have the depth. We could talk about that later when we assemble the war room, because they're going to have to make some pretty key decisions this offseason. But they have just a lot of stuff in order to supplement. I think that one of the big reasons they made it this far is that they go 8 deep. And so it's like nice to have a Dante DiVincenzo. Everyone would love that player, but unfortunately, like, if he's like a guy you're counting on, then it gets a little iffy. If anything, like, he seemed out of whack pretty much this entire postseason. Just didn't seem consistent enough. Yeah. I almost wonder if he's just like used to only playing 40 minutes a game in the postseason, that actually like downsizing to like 20 just completely threw him off. But you're right.
He's got to get the lather up before he can hit shots. You really got to get it going.
It's a lather scorer. Yeah, so it's weird. They almost have everything figured out except for that like one number 2 pillar next to Ant. And I don't know how they get that, because that seems like the hardest question of all.
It's going to be tricky. I mean, it's been tricky for the Thunder have wrestled with that question, right? Of like, is J-Dub going to be that guy for them or not? And he has proven. I think you can go kind of up and down their lineup and up and down their roster, probably even in the broader organization if you wanted to, and say like, how did these guys kind of prove it this postseason? Mark Daigneault has had incredible coaching moments throughout these playoffs. Shea has solved, as we've addressed, like all of the puzzles that have been presented him throughout these rounds, all of the defenses, all of the coverages that an MVP would face, double or not, zone or not, every kind of variation thereof. And I think has ultimately found himself through it better for it, more evolved, even more creative than he's ever been before. Jalen Williams has established himself as that second star, has had tremendous moments in this series in particular, delivering offensively and defensively. I think for Chet, the question was like, can he show up in every matchup, right? Does he have a way against big teams? Does he have a way against small teams? And he's found ways to do that. The supporting cast has hit all the shots they need to hit, has defended their asses off. It's like everyone for the Thunder has delivered. I think you could say that for the Wolves for certain members of the roster, for certain portions. Otherwise, it's like there's gaps here, there's gaps there, there's areas that they still need to improve, and that's just reality in the NBA.
Yeah. Before we turn our attention to the Wolves and their offseason, I have 3 lists for you guys, all involving Oklahoma City, because I had a whole lot of time in order to dig deep in the crates here. Let's do historical perspective first. So, teams that have had 2 separate cores making it to the NBA Finals over the past quarter century. So since the year 2000, these teams have had one core, and then no other players from that team have made it back to the finals.
Ooh, okay.
We could do it as a quiz. Do you guys have?
I got some guesses. The Miami Heat are one.
Miami are one. Yep. They had 3. So Shaq, Wade, Heatles, and then Jimmy. You could pick either the Heatles or Shaq Wade. I believe they're the quickest turnaround to Heatles to Jimmy, and obviously a lot of that was free agency.
Are the other 2 Dallas and the Lakers?
Dallas and Lakers are up there. So obviously Shaq, Kobe Powell, LeBron and AD, and then Mavs last year in the 2011 team. There's one more in addition to the Thunder being the new.
I'm looking at the answers because I didn't know it was a quiz. I was already looking at.
Why you not the answer
key?
I'm just looking at the freaking rundown, thinking it was just a rundown situation.
It's an obvious team, though.
The Spurs?
No, they don't technically count just because Duncan was there for all.
The Celtics.
Ubuntu,
of course.
Celtics.
Well, but the spirit of Ubuntu was there for both titles, so I don't think that one counts.
It's there for all of us. So that is 5 teams in total who have made it back. So this is rarefied air. Now, technically, if the Pacers make it, and we expect them to at this point, as we're recording this on Wednesday night, they would make it as well, just because 2000 was the Pacers.
Reggie Miller. Jermaine O'Neal was the best player on the team, but Jalen Rose was probably the second best player on that team, which is just kind of insane to even consider.
This game we saw tonight had some unspeakable violence in it, just in terms of how dominant one team was over the other. I gotta say, some of those Pacers teams that made the finals and then had to guard Shaq, it didn't go great.
Not
you know,
nice.
Even at the latest stages of competition, things can get very, very ugly.
So 6 franchises, though, who have done that. It's crazy that the Thunder have been able to reboot so quickly. Like, you just don't see that often. And like, this could be the start of something with the Thunder. Okay, so that's
I'd be curious too, like how many of those teams we'd have to think about have the same executive for both of those runs, or like the same GM or the same person running basketball ops. Like Pat Riley would presumably be one.
Yeah.
Dallas turned over.
No, Mitch Kupchak did not.
I guess because of the COVID.
So I guess Sam Presti and Pat Riley are the only 2 on that list who's like run the same way fundamentally by the same people the whole time.
Yeah, doesn't happen often. Next one, biggest offseason trades. So from this past offseason, I sent you guys a list if you want to peruse that in the chat there. So I think obviously we would say the Cat for Randall, Dante DiVincenzo would have to be number 1, considering that it spurred 2 separate teams into that. I mean, see a lot of people poo-pooing the Sabonis Haliburton like win-win trade idea, and like rightfully so, because it seems like Sabonis is going to get shot, but actually might not actually get traded because nobody wants him. This one, it seems like everybody won. Everyone caught what they wanted. So I have to say that is number 1. But after that, I gotta wonder if Caruso for Giddey is looking pretty good for the Thunder, considering what happened.
I just want to say I've never seen Waz so delighted Justin, as when you said that nobody wants Domantas Sabonis.
I've been saying this for 3 years, but whatever. It is what it is.
Seems like a nice guy.
He does. He seems like a very nice
like
guy.
a girl, according to that documentary that I watched 2 episodes of.
Congratulations to both of them.
Yeah.
So are you saying, I mean, obviously the Caruso part of this is huge. I assume, Justin, you're also saying the Giddey part of this is of great consequence.
Well, yeah. I think I'm looking at more from like one side of this. Like, what had the biggest impact on the season and maybe even going forward? I think the other options, Bridges, obviously, to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Avdia to the Trailblazers, the new star.
We see you sneaking it in.
DeJounte Murray for the Dyson Daniels trade, which is probably now the Dyson Daniels trade. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. for Grimes, Chris Dunn sign and trade, DeRozan to the Kings, Klay Thompson to the Mavs.
It's got to be Caruso, I think.
I think Bridges is a more important player for the Knicks, but the Knicks aren't the odds-on favorite to dominate and win the NBA championship, right? So maybe the Caruso is the more important move because particularly against Denver, man. And again, you know, Denver might end up being the most competitive series that they had this postseason. Caruso made so many huge, timely buckets. So many threes this guy made that if he wasn't hitting those shots, it changes the geometry of the court. And now you don't have one of your best defenders out there and makes you way more vulnerable to this Denver offense. And so I think the Caruso thing can't be overstated. He's been incredible this postseason. I think one of the questions coming in was like, are him and Lou Dort going to make shots, you know, in order to keep their defensive integrity as the most amazing defense in the NBA? They're not that without Lou Dort and Caruso doing what they do. And so, you know, him being able to stay on the floor while being because he could be a consistent shooter, incredible.
Oh, wait, he's like well over 40% for these playoffs from 3. Obviously a good playmaker, obviously a good transition player. But I think you're right to point out Bridges too, Woz. Like those two guys, I don't think either of these teams, the Thunder or the Knicks, would be in these positions. And I say that just like to advance even this far without those guys. And the luxury of Alex Caruso is not just guarding Nikola Jokic in the second round. It's that you get to play him bigger than his size in this series. And Isaiah Hartenstein plays like 16, 17 minutes a game by the end of it. Like he's just functionally not an important part of the Thunder rotation because of the matchup. Alex Caruso is always going to be an important part of the matchup. There's always someone for him to guard, big or small. There's always someone for him to chase or hound or help away from. A player like that, I mean, I don't understand why the Bulls traded him away the way they did for the price that they did, but the Thunder are reaping all the benefits, that's for sure.
I think the Bulls are doing okay.
Are
you very
they?
Much. I think Caruso might fall into the Josh Hart All-Stars where it's like regular season 3-point shooting. It's like, but I would bet my life on that guy. If you gave him an open look in a playoff game, it's like him. Nembhard, I guess, has to be on the current roster there. Anybody else we're missing?
Well, Nesmith.
Well, Nesmith has gone from like, you know, a pretty good, very solid 3-point shooter in the regular season to, I don't know, Steph Curry's, like whatever goes to Steph Curry channels to be as good as he is, that's who Aaron Nesmith is.
Yeah. So I would probably rank those Cat, Caruso, Bridges. Sounds like you guys might fluctuate on 1, 2. And then
I think Caruso and Bridges are in the same bracket, ultimately.
Yeah. Avdia right after that.
I mean, to indulge you, yes.
Thank you. Last list I have. The most popular dog names in Oklahoma City 2025. Is it Shea, Chet, Lou, Caruso, or Nick Gallo?
Oh, Nick Gallo's a great name for a dog.
Put towels over the dog.
You guys are dog people. You gotta tell me the etiquette here, because I would feel like it's disrespectful to name a dog after somebody you actually like.
I know this sounds mildly racist, but I promise.
That's what I'm asking. I'm like, this is out of my cultural depth.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Kembas in Connecticut based off of that run. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so like it's an homage, really, to somebody that you love. Whereas for me, I'm like, you're calling me a dog. You know,
You're telling me, Woz, if a loyal group chat listener named their pet Woz, you wouldn't take that as a compliment?
Yeah.
Oh, a group chat listener? Yes.
Well, that's the equivalent, right?
But
what about a cat? What if it's a cat, not a dog?
Oh,
what if it's like an anonymous hater on Twitter? It's like, yeah, I named my dog Woz.
If there's a hater out there who names their dog Woz because they hate Woz so much, like, we just have to respect it. Like, that's a level of hating that we have no choice but to accept.
You're a Batman villain at that point. That level of hating. I kind of like Lou.
I think Lou is the one for sure.
The simple axiom is like, who has the most dog in them? And it's either a Lou Dort or an Alex Caruso question. And so whichever way, actually, it's got to be Lugens, right? You got to go full name.
Lugens.
That's on the birth certificate, but you're giving nicknames, you're just showing it.
You're absolutely right.
Basis. I guess J-Dub doesn't roll off the tongue, even though he is the spawning of the dog barking thing. That kind of phased out for the towels this year. So
it's true. It's been replaced bit over bit.
Anything else on the Thunder you guys want to hit here after we've covered all the dog names now?
Well, I just want to say, Justin, great lists. Good trivia.
Thank you.
Fun times. Thank you very
Rob.
much.
Yes. Good job on the list.
I'm having a great time.
Great.
Good job on the list, bro.
It doesn't sound as complimentary when Woz says.
All right, cat list coming during Variables 2025. I got a preview of the new Variables song, by the way.
Yeah. How you feeling about it?
I fucking love
Wait,
it.
we're doing Variables before the season's over? You already got this for...
It's the finals variable.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
pre-finals variables.
My bad.
Justin, if you
hand up, my bad. I forgot about that.
If you could give us one word, Justin, word association style, to describe the new variables theme, what would you give us?
Banger.
All right. I mean, look, I'm not going to argue with a banger.
How about this? If you want something a little bit more specific to the tone here, beep boop. Hyphenated.
Okay. Could you use that in a sentence?
You're a beep boop guy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Woz is checked out here. So
I know. I thought you were making robot noises. So I'm like, is this like a Daft Punk type
it is.
Oh,
like, honestly, that'd be right in our zone. I think.
I'm like, is this a Daft Punk reference?
A little, but think earlier.
Earlier than Daft Punk. Okay.
Yeah. No, Rob just challenged my grammatical acumen, and I had to turn it into.
It wasn't a challenge. I'm doing the spelling bee over here.
use it in get the country of origin.
Yeah.
Out there. All right. Why don't we flip to the war room now with Minnesota? We talked about this. Is
one thing about the war room. I think we're gonna extend this bit, I'm sure, to the next offseason. We need a graphic of us.
Yeah.
But in the form of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and them in the Bin Laden mission war room. You've seen that.
Gotta get
picture
Keith
before.
on that. Yeah.
Who else is in the room, Woz? If we're going full TNT gone fishing with this, who else are we photoshopping into the war room with us?
Shit. We putting Keith in there.
Gotta be.
Ben, Cruz, Isaiah Blakely, Eduardo, because he be stepping up.
Definitely.
Every now and again.
Your cat. On video more than
Mimi
any of those guys.
Have to be in there since she's a fucking.
I'm just imagining a random guy in that room in a suit with a Mimi head superimposed over. This image is gonna really pop off.
I thought you were gonna suggest costumes, and I was like, oh, but
war room costume.
Just general vibe going on here.
Oh God.
Yeah, what are you guys thinking costume wise for when the Pacers do make the NBA Finals? What are the two of you gonna do to repent to honor the Pacers? Do you think?
I don't know. What's an Indiana centric kind of thing?
I mean,
overalls? Should I get some overalls or something?
Doesn't IU do a red pinstriped pants kind of situation?
Yeah, Hoosiers. I like that.
We can look into that. We'll have to see kind of what the overlap is on Hoosier Nation and Pacer Nation. I suspect a lot, but I don't know if there's a Purdue rivalry in there that I need to be mindful of. I'm trying to just dodge landmines.
I think HR might have some thoughts on us going with pants shots for the full body shots for some of these Zoom things.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay. No, I still owe for the Spurs, so we have to.
That's so true.
That. But I don't think we did. We didn't do costume for Pacers. We never had a Pacers bet.
I'm not saying we had a bet. I'm just saying I feel like you two need to prostrate yourselves.
Show some respect to the Indiana Pacers,
to the future Eastern Conference champions. That's all.
Well, I'll have to borrow one of Woz's black tanks, and we'll do a black tank.
That was insane, by the way, that they gave him the mic at the game, and he just calling out all the
appreciated
New York.
it.
So I don't know. I don't think so.
There's a little too much Timmy. Like, I love that Timmy and Stiller are now like everybody's favorite buddy duo, but like they're showing them every 5 minutes on the broadcast. It's
Our
just like,
guys are flying across the country to hang out with their team and watch the games. Like, what's wrong with that?
I think the millions of dollars that they have and everything else is probably enough of a reward.
That's fair.
They don't need the screen time. All right, Minnesota War Room. We're assembled. Just envision costumes or this War Room photo if you'd like. Big offseason, kind of quickly happening despite the fact that they traded Karl Towns just on the precipice of the season. So Randall, technically a free agent, he has a player option for about $31 million. Naz Reid, $15 million player option. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, unrestricted free agent. So Waz, if you're looking at that list, Randall, Naz, Nickeil, how would you prioritize those guys? Because I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to bring all three back.
It's funny because it feels like the entire point of bringing Julius Randle in was to not bring him back, right? It was like, we're paying the hell out of Cat.
He almost wasn't supposed to be this good, if that makes sense. Like, to be
sure,
that he'll now be quite expensive, I would think, to bring back.
But think about it though, Rob. Like, if you pay this guy $45 million or $40 million or whatever it's gonna take to keep him, and you keep Naz Reid, and you got your doors blown off just like you did the year before. Now you've renewed that same amount of long-term commitment and money. Like, tell me how this is more logical than what they did to let go of Cat last year. It just doesn't fit. Like, Cat had so much money committed.
Yep.
Years into the future, big money. Now it's like it would be the same amount. Maybe you could get these guys to sign for 3 instead of 4. Okay.
I think the trade-off, the hopeful trade-off with that deal as it stands now is that maybe you can get both Julius Randle and Naz for something slightly more than Cat money. And if they had Cat at his figure, which is 50 to 60 million, ranging over the next 3 years, I don't know that you necessarily would or could bring back Naz Reid in the same way.
But here's the thing, though. Naz Reid has a player option for $15 million.
He certainly does.
Yeah,
Julius Randle's player option is for 31, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's already 45 with no raises on this extension.
If they could get them at those rates, they'd be thrilled, but they will not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Oh no, it's
here's the
plenty
question.
more. Yeah.
Well, here's the question though: who are they bidding against for Randall, despite his pretty electric postseason up until this series? Like, who's looking at that and being like, "That's the guy that we need"? And so, if there's not as much competition, can you get him at more of a bargain than you think?
He could also be like, sign and trade me. Just let me go. And I'll go to a team. I'll pick up my option, go to another team that has some respect for what I do. A team that might respect the fact that I carried them to a conference finals.
Yes.
I find myself leaning toward Waz's way of thinking. I hate to really turn on Julius Randle after we've come so far with him.
Yeah.
But I almost wonder if we're saying to ourselves, like, he really wasn't able to push them over the top. They're in the over the top business. And maybe they should look at using him as a more palatable expiring contract to make more of an upgrade. Like, if you have enough other stuff, Dillingham, picks, whatever it might be, to entice the Suns, for instance, to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's like, I only want to go to the Timberwolves to play with Ant. He's my boy from Team USA, et cetera, et cetera. Then it's like, oh, the Suns might be like, oh, we could use Randall for a year and then just let him go. That honestly might be the best case scenario, which is tough because I feel bad. Randall's been good, but I just don't see it long term.
Earned a new deal.
Yes.
Totally.
If earning deals is such a thing in the NBA, it would seem that he's earned one.
I completely agree. I think, look, those plans I think are worth considering for sure. But at the same time, you have to be very careful about throwing that to Julius Randle to say, what do you think about playing for the Phoenix Suns? Because if it is going to be a trade, he has to buy in on it, right? He has to pick up that option in order to make it possible in the first place. That's dicey. Just like from a
the Suns would have to promise him
standpoint.
money. Like, why am I helping you execute? Like, it's gonna get complicated, or it's just gonna. either it gets complicated in that way, or they just go with what it seems like they wanted to do, which is get Cat's money off their books.
I don't think they can let Julius Randle just walk.
The other factor we should mention here is it does seem like everything's aligned with the ownership changed now, whereas before it was in flux. And so maybe they're more likely to add money because that ownership group was the one pushing for the Gobert trade in the first place in order to put their books in the position where they ultimately had to trade Cat.
Right.
So different situation for the ownership group. But in terms of Nas and Nikhil, Rob, if you had to make a choice, gun to your head, you could only keep one. Who you keep it?
I don't think, unfortunately for the Wolves, there's going to be a choice. I don't think they will be able to re-sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They can really only re-sign him using his bird rights. And unfortunately for them, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is on an exceedingly reasonable contract. So I think the best they can offer him is somewhere in the ballpark of like $8 million. That's not going to work. Not going to be nearly enough. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's appeal throughout the league, I think, will be quite high. Every team could use Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's not going to break the bank in a way that a Julius Randle will. I don't know that the Wolves are going to be able to like logistically get it done unless they rework their books in a really significant way. So then you come back to Nas almost by default, but also you should want Nas Reed back on your team. He's a really good player.
What's a reasonable number? 25?
Yeah, that was kind of where I was thinking, 25-ish. And maybe he is the kind of player who might take some kind of discount for the sake that like he is a beloved Timberwolf and has really come into his own with that organization as a member of that community, like has a really good thing going in a way that I could see someone like him not giving away the farm, but like giving a little back for the sake of saying
4 years, 90?
Sure.
Give him the IP to his typeface.
As you damn well should. To the beach towel? If he should be getting a commission on these damn beach towels.
Giving him the IP on the merch. Oh, God.
So do we let's say that's the team. Just Randall and Nas back, but we cut off one of our key rotation players, especially in this series. Like,
well, this is where like the Terrence Shannon minutes aren't just cute. It's like you need Terrence Shannon to be good. You need someone who's going to step into Nikhil's role.
What'd you think about those 7 minutes for Rob Dillingham at the end of this one?
Not scintillating, but
not the best rookie season I've ever seen.
No,
I'll say. And I had some hopes for him coming in, his minutes were super inconsistent, but he is tiny, dude. And
real blow to the short kings between him and Reed Shepherd, just getting no minutes this year.
Tough.
So I don't know how he fits in too. Like, you just assuming he's going to be the energy scorer off the bench next year? I didn't see anything from this year that would suggest that like all of a sudden all those height issues are just going to correct themselves.
So what do we think about being, we're in a matchup based league. We got to pray somebody else takes those guys out. And we like our matchup against the rest of the West.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say. It's just traditionally how teams have built themselves. When I think about, what Morey did in Houston, when everybody was scared of the KD Warriors, and he was like, screw that. We're going all in on a super switchable team and, have this wing heavy kind of rotation and whatever. We're going for it. And they even took him 7 games and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Traditionally, that's what teams would do. The Knicks going like, we got to bring in elite wings and trade all these picks for Bridges because we got to match up against Boston. It would seem that running this team back is not them trying to match up against OKC.
No. But how does one match up with OKC? Like, I think a lot of the weaknesses that the Thunder supposedly had are being taken off the board. It used to be like, if you're a good enough rebounding team, you can bully the Thunder. Well, that didn't work. If you're a big enough team, maybe you could stifle them inside with your defense. Well, that didn't work. Maybe you could dare their role players to shoot. Maybe you could match their athleticism. That hasn't really worked either. Like, none of these teams have been able to figure out how you match up with a defense like OKC's. I hear you about like the Warriors comp, and like I do think there's something really admirable about targeting specific needs that can challenge specific contenders if you know you have to run through them. I think the Wolves have done that really successfully when they thought Denver was the number 1 team they needed to deal with. I just don't know what you do with the Thunder. I don't know how you target them in a very specific way. And so then I think you do default to like, this team is good enough to push an incredible wide variety of Western Conference opponents with Julius Randle as a part of it, with Nas Reed as a part of it. that may cost you $40 million a year for Julius Randle to make that happen. The number I kept coming back to was the 3-year, $120 million extension that Brandon Ingram just got. That's now 2 Brandon Ingram invocations on podcasts in May. I apologize. But
Raptors fans love it. I heard more about that like 2 minutes at the end of last week's podcast than anything else.
Look, when you're one of those teams at this time of year and you're like neither heavy into the draft nor heavy into the NBA playoffs, like you got to take the crumbs you can get.
It's bleak. Well, can I interest you in what I'm now calling the long window theory, which is what I kind of proposed to you guys last week in a very meandering conversation.
Okay.
But basically just be the best you could be and then see what happens. And I do think, like, let's say, for instance, everything went the same for the Wolves. Oh, all of a sudden in game 7, Chet sprained his ankle, bad high ankle sprain, can't play in this series. Well, window's open for you because they're on that level. All they need is just the right breaks in the way that it kind of has worked out for the Pacers. And so it's just like, be all that you can be,
or like,
is what I'm saying.
Shea and J-Dub like fall out over a gambling debt or something.
That's right.
That would be sick, actually. Word. You're right. I tend to agree with you, Justin. I think sometimes we see these outcomes as overdetermined. You know, like, yeah, the Wolves looked completely horrible against this team in this matchup, but I'm sorry, man, it's the NBA. I think teams can figure out, like, yo, if this is the target, we can come up with better ways of being competitive against them. I truly believe that. I don't think like OKC is this unsolvable problem. They're not the KD Warriors. I do not believe that, right? Like, where it's like, look, guys, these guys are healthy. You guys are going to get your doors blown off every single time, despite the matchup. I don't think that's the truth. And maybe some of it is just like, yo, we keep our continuity together. We keep our talent relatively high to all of our peers. And, we go into the offseason with a target no longer on Denver, but on OKC, and a mindset of like, how do we beat what OKC is so fantastic at?
Justin, there's like a Napoleonic battle strategy that is attuned to this. Of like, you just show up and you keep showing up and you see what happens every time out. This is advancing into Russia territory. But I guess my question, as far as like the long window theory, is that what we're dubbing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is this different than normal? Like, what are we changing into this particular theory?
I think what's different is the sort of NBA online discourse that if you're not championship worthy, then you're wasting your time.
Got it.
Which I think that theory, which I've always thought was stupid, is not true. Because if you would have applied that to the Pacers, they wouldn't be going to the NBA championship right now. Right? Like, you would be like, oh, this Haliburton thing, like, he's not even a superstar, and they need to stop, circling the drain in the middle and blah, blah, blah. That's what people would have said traditionally about the Pacers team. And guess what? Boston goes down. Mm-hmm. The Knicks ain't ready. We're going to be in the finals because we've coalesced, as a unit, and we have all of this continuity and chemistry, and, these parts fit so complementary of each other. And now we're on the precipice of the finals. And I think, I think that's a rebuke of what people would have said in the past, where, you're treating the actual NBA as if it's a video game and you just simulate through seasons and it's not like real life.
I think there's 2 things that have changed within the past 2 years or so. One, injuries seem to be up en masse. It just seems harder to play longer minutes in the regular season. And so if injuries are piling up, maybe things fluctuate a little bit more. The second thing is obviously the CBA is designed specifically to crack down on teams that are top heavy, that are built in order to aggregate stars. And those teams are typically looking to to land a narrow window. If you just give yourself a long track record in the way that the Thunder are, the way that the Spurs could if they decide to draft Dylan Harper at 2 as opposed to trade for Giannis, then it's just like we might have a 5 to 8 year stretch. But things could happen. We're not going to be number 1 in the Vegas odds every year. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But you're just going to be competitive. I mean, it's really just what the Spurs did early on, which the Warriors tried to replicate. Unfortunately, the Warriors were a little bit more splintered between 2 different eras. If you have all of your guys generally on the same timeline and you're supplementing veterans that aren't key to the core, I think you could just keep piling on different versions of the same team. That seemed to be the working theory, in addition to the money with the Wolves, that we're an ant team. we're going to be an ant team for as long as possible. Let's just make sure we have options along the way.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think as far as the length of that window, too, one of the things we're seeing with the teams that are breaking through, the Thunder in the NBA Finals, the Pacers are on the brink of the NBA Finals. That means a team is going to win the title if the Pacers do, in fact, make it. That is either led by a 26-year-old superstar or a 24-year-old superstar. Like maybe the avenue for the younger teams to bust through is there in a way that it never was before. And by virtue of that, then you have the longevity of this window. And that's where the Thunder are just scary as hell. And I think part of the reason why this feels like the Thunder era kind of opening was is not necessarily because they're unbeatable a la the KD Warriors. It's because they have all this stuff. As Justin alluded to on last pod, this is probably the worst that they're going to be because these young guys are going to continue to get better in the near future.
But they got to get paid.
They got to get paid.
That.
But
this is the cheapest team in the league.
For sure. But I would say the timing of their contracts is as amenable to the current CBA as any team outlook in the league. And they have something that almost no other contender does, which is all of those picks to replenish kind of the young rotation talent. Like it seems clear at this point they don't necessarily have designs to trade for a star and like a big swing trade. They just want to eventually trade for the next Cason Wallace or the next Aaron Wiggins. It's like they're going to replace those guys over time is what's most likely.
On that point, I was actually doing some digging today because I might try to write up this long window theory because I'm really trying to own this territory at this point.
This is your corner.
I don't
You and
think
Napoleon, but yeah.
We really need to dig into what you're doing on your off time with this research. I don't think the Thunder have traded a first round pick, at the very least since Chris Paul, maybe dating back to since the Paul George trade, for a player, like in order to get a veteran in house. When they trade first, it's usually to move around in the draft to get the guy that they want. They aren't adding veteran players. If anything, they're just trying to nail draft picks. And to Rob's point, like they're trying to actually develop a feeder system to the point where it's like, oh man, Lou Dort can't pay him this year. Caruso and Cason Wallace right there. Or like you need a backup point guard. Nikola Topic is just like hanging out, like playing on an iPad. This
that
entire
he's right there. Like one of like a much ballyhooed prospect who we talked about a lot in the expansion draft because he was really coveted for exactly those kinds of purposes because the Thunder are so stacked. Nikola Topic just sitting right there. Could be a member of the future of the Thunder, maybe not. I have no idea, but the fact that they have that at their disposal is insane.
So Keith Smith had this stat on Twitter right before we jump down here. If it is indeed Pacers Thunder, that would be the first NBA final since the luxury tax was instituted that neither team is a taxpayer.
Fascinating.
And I feel like that's pretty telling because I think the league is largely dictated by legalese in the CBA and all those documents. It is literally a brief that dictates human behavior. And they have said, we want teams, we want parity, but we also want teams that build like this. I think it's telling that soon after the new CBA is instituted, we get two of these teams. That doesn't feel like a mistake.
So the new market inefficiency in the modern NBA, paralegals. You need someone combing through that paper, like Control F, Chat GPT. It's not going to get it done anymore. Like you need real manpower.
I'm here. I'm open for a part-time job. When I'm not gardening, I'm done.
The Timberwolves are relevant to this discussion too, though, because if they commit to, let's say, two of those three guys we talked about, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if they commit to two of those guys, they are effectively committing to be, I think, a second apron team for the foreseeable future, at least the first apron team. The finances can wiggle a little bit depending on how they manage their roster. So it's like they could be not quite locked into that group, but put into a little bit of a corner as far as improving upon what they already have.
Do you guys want to talk a little Pacers Knicks before we go here?
I guess we have to.
we have to. We're not twisting your arm, Woz.
It's not an arm twist. It's like, is the outcome in doubt here? Like, is there anybody who thinks this thing isn't over?
I want to bring joy to your guys' life, and I know this makes Rob happy. And
it does.
If we're coming off of the probably best performance of the playoffs and by far the best performance of Tyrese Haliburton's career, like, I feel like we should give him a little time here.
Oh yeah.
What a game. Like the piling up assists with 0 turnovers is preposterous on its face. The fact that the team echoes that basically when he's on the floor, like not just him making plays, but everyone else committing very few turnovers as well. We're talking about this a little bit pre-show, but it's going to be very fascinating if the Pacers and the Thunder end up meeting in the NBA Finals. All the turnovers that the Thunder force, all the turnovers that the Pacers do not commit. But Tyrese Haliburton has evolved in a way as an ISO scorer, as a creator off the dribble, as someone who's pressing his luck, driving inside, and even finishing against bigs. Another guy who's kind of met every test and answered a lot of the fundamental questions about his game. I will say, especially something we're not talking about a lot with his box score contributions, which, if I'm not mistaken, were like unprecedented, save for Nikola Jokic and Wilt Chamberlain or something. I can't remember who the third.
Yeah.
Preposterous
Stockton.
territory. Yeah, might have been that. Defensively, like, I think he has stood up to the test defensively. The Knicks target him. They go at him. That's going to happen whenever you're a star. He has not proven to be Luka Doncic, where he flakes defensively out of a couple games. You have to raise him to the challenge of actually competing, even in the NBA Finals. Like, Haliburton has been fighting through these playoffs. He has stood up in these matchups that he has to stand up in to a level that now the Pacers defense can maintain its overall integrity. And it's like, if you're putting up those numbers and you're not like a liability defensively, you're in pretty special territory as far as NBA stardom is concerned.
I think, to me, game 4 part that was craziest was the amount of time Carlisle was willing to let him rest, which felt like we dominate when this guy's on the court. Like if this thing is a 3-point game, by the time Haliburton gets in the game, we're going to smoke these guys. And like, we're talking about 6 minutes left in the half, like 6 minutes, 8 minutes left in the fourth, where I'm just like, man, this guy's only playing, he's playing minutes in the 30s. Okay? And it's because while he's out there, he is putting in so much work. He is so dominant. And the game takes the tenor of his basic will. Like, he's dictating the terms of how the game is played, in terms of his pace, in terms of the type of shots the Pacers are going to take. Like, the Knicks don't tell them, like, all right, yo, we know you want to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to make you do something different. No. We're going to do what we want to do on every single possession. There's nothing you could do about it. And, you know, Rob mentioned the getting to the paint and actually finishing, but also shooting some mid-rangers because he is, you know, really an analytical, friendly type of offensive game. He's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and get in the mid-range too, or at least he did in game 4. And so I don't think you can say enough about what this guy did. And he just literally looked like the best player on the floor. And I don't think coming into this playoffs, anybody would be saying Haliburton was better than Jalen Brunson, or that he'd be a more dominant fourth quarter player than Jalen Brunson. And that's been the case up and down this damn series. And, you know, I think he deserves his props. Now, look, I think there's been times.
Here it is.
Look,
However.
No, I'm just
he plays
saying,
like
the
Urkel.
Knicks defense, bro, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Their level of execution and focus has not met the moment.
No.
Collectively.
But never really
like,
does.
Someone put you in a bind. They do. I mean, the Sixers,
thing.
excuse me, the Pacers put you in a bind. But like, bruh, you got to be better.
I don't disagree, but what I'm seeing is like somebody just pushed over a vase off a table and you're blaming the craftsmanship of the vase. It's like the Pacers broke them. They move so much. They force them into rotations. They make life difficult in a way that like the Boston Celtics did not, right? Like the other good teams stylistically just have not been able to press the Knicks in quite that same way. And so I give the Pacers a lot of credit. Now, are the Knicks breaking down? Yeah, they're breaking down a lot because the Pacers are really hard to guard.
There's mental toughness, Rob.
Definitely, honestly, a huge part of it, genuinely.
Well, if I have to bind all of this together, it does feel like there's something going on with the system there. And you have to give Rick Carlisle a lot of credit.
Carlisle's
because
great.
We talk a lot about coaches being overly dogmatic or a little set in their ways in terms of not wanting to change things. Carlisle has done that, but all of it is to foster all of these like things that the team is basically like their belief system. Like it is in order to keep the pace up, in order to cycle through more guys. And so like you have to have steel testes basically to be like, well, Thomas Bryant, who we shouldn't be playing to begin with, isn't up to snuff. We're going to go with Tony Bradley just because we need bodies in order to feed this ideology that has been so successful for us. And so Carlisle's one pillar and the second pillar is obviously Haliburton. It's just like everything is unlocking. I don't know if like the shooting success of some of the guys he's playing around has unlocked him, or his ability to just get guys open, whether it's jump passing or with some of the most wiggly maneuvers I've ever seen from a basketball player. Maybe it's just a feedback loop of both. But like, I mean, the obvious comp is D'Antoni and Nash, and like, the more they have success, the more it reminds me of those teams.
The thing too that's kind of Thunder like is the confidence that the non-Halley guys have.
Yeah.
You know, in their ownership of the offense. Like Lou Dort, sometimes he takes shots. I'm like, this Negro is crazy. Like, why is his light so green? Like, that's crazy to me. But guess what? Like, you have to make those sacrifices. That's going to make the team actually better. That's going to make you more dangerous to guard. That's going to put the defense in more panic, even though sometimes defenses are going to be like, oh, we want to leave Lou Dort. He's been empowered and he has the confidence. A lot of shooting is confidence and knowing that nobody's going to suck their teeth. Nobody's going to whip their neck at you like, yo, what the hell are you doing if you missed that shot that you took? Like, I think that matters in how the Pacers actually play. And guys like Nesmith and Nembhard and McConnell and all of these other guys, Obi Toppin, like these guys have a green light when they get a look or get like, not just to shoot, take it to the rack.
Yeah.
Take a guy one-on-one. Like, whatever, do what the hell you want. It's amazing to watch.
They have so many guys who can put the ball on the floor and make something happen, to the point that like, when you have that level of buy-in from everybody, and you have, you know, as you guys have been alluding to, like the flexibility and coaching with Rick Carlisle, who I think makes a lot of adjustments in terms of how the team is navigating, but never compromises. Like, it's never we're sacrificing the integrity of the system or the culture or the way we play. It's just like, we're going to move from this action into Andrew Nembhard, you're heavy pick and roll now. Like, you're going to handle the ball, you're going to work the angles, you're going to create. Pascal Siakam, we're going to post you up on the left block over and over against Josh Hart after we trigger the specific switch. Miles Turner, you're ducking in transition. We're going to feed you the ball every single time because we don't think these smalls can guard you. You know, Aaron Nesmith, we're going to run you as a pick and pop big because of they're going to put Jalen Brunson on you. We're going to make them sweat that way. It's like they just have all these different mechanisms they can toggle between. And all of that is because Tyrese Haliburton, with the strengths of his game and his willingness to play that way, allows that to be the culture of the Pacers. And I think that's no small thing. I don't say it to take anything away from more ball dominant stars or guys who control the offense in a totally different way. We've seen that can be really, really effective. But if you play this other way, you tap into something in an Aaron Nesmith or an Andrew Nembhard or a TJ McConnell that those other teams just aren't going to have access to.
How repeatable do you guys think the success for the ancillary guys, the Nesmiths, the Nembhards, to a certain extent, the Turners, is repeatable long-term? Like, do we think that Haliburton has unlocked something in order to draw this out of guys in the way that we've seen best pass first point guards typically do? Do we think that they're just shooting over their heads at this point and it all just kind of feeds together? Or is this like, this is who these guys are going to be? One, because they've made progress unbeknownst to maybe the general public, or because Haliburton can dredge this out of them?
I'd say they've done it for 2 straight years.
I mean, I think what he's talking about is like the Heat thing where, like, you know, Caleb Martin and Max Strus and Gabe Vincent leave and don't look half as dope as they did when they were
way more
in Miami.
though. Yeah.
You know, but like I personally, and maybe I'll be wrong about this, I feel like Nesmith is a clutch shooter. Like Nembhard, where teams can't get the ball in against the guy that he's guarding down the stretch when like the Pacers are doing the whole like pressuring your inbound. Like the dude that Nembhard is guarding, like if you throw it that way, I'm convinced it's going to be a turnover. Like it seems like all the stuff that they do is real. Even the shot making, it would seem like. And, you know, I guess sometimes it just takes us forever to just accept that some of these guys can be like who they've shown themselves to be. But I'm pretty convinced. I'm done. I'm tired of like doubting these freaking Pacer dudes. Like,
we love to hear it. I mean,
I'm tired of being wrong about these fucking guys.
Usually it takes a run like this for role players, right? If you're a star, you get certain benefits of the doubt. You get the production in the regular season. Like enough people see what you do to acknowledge it and understand it. If you're a role player, you kind of need a Max Strus run, or else you're just some guy in the league to a lot of people. And I think Aaron Nesmith has certainly had that moment. Andrew Nembhard certainly had that moment. I think as far as the repeatability goes, like those guys are this. They are this so long as you care to tap into it. So long as you care to give them space and air to create and move and be a dynamic part of the offense. I think they're going to be able to produce in this way. To me, the big growth for the Pacers this year, if you want to like look year over year relative to kind of what they were doing in the playoffs last season and the regular season last year, the way they've been using their bigs, the way they've been tapping into Miles Turner, the way they've been tapping into Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam, who's his own beast entirely as a creator.
Siakam had a sick series, dude.
He's been awesome. And it's like the fact, like, it's one thing for Siakam to hit the tough shots. Like, he's a good mid-range shooter. He's a good long-range shooter. He can work off the dribble. He's going to do all that stuff. He's Pascal Siakam. The way they augment it with easy stuff, like, that's Pacers basketball. And that's something that I think they've grown, like, they've created the DNA of that, of like, how do we tap into our bigs into the easiest possible offense for them to beat mismatches? And they do it as consistently as any team in the league.
Miles Turner is going to be the Hakeem Olajuwon for this team. Like 20 years from now, it'll be like, he played 20 years for the Pacers. We tried to trade him 19 of those, but here he is courtside for like Haliburton's son, just taking over the new Pacers.
I mean, the statue watch is officially on for Miles Turner. You know, we started the legacy talk too early with Terrence Shannon. I think we should have waited for Miles Turner.
I think that's the one thing that might actually deter them, is that at this point, if Turner is going to be a free agent, there's a lot of teams looking at this being like, God damn, can I get in the Miles Turner business?
As they should.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll see. Game 5 back in New York tomorrow, Thursday. I don't know if we'll be back on Saturday. I think it depends a lot on what happens in that series. If they don't go into a 6th game,
the finals is scheduled to start on June 5th, right? Or something insane like that.
Got a lot of time. But for us, we'll probably be Saturday or Monday. I'm sure you can figure that out based on who wins the game on Thursday. So, or just email Rob. Rob will tell you.
ringersgroupchat@gmail.com. I'll hit you up. Gardening tips, scheduling updates, takes on what Indiana-themed costumes we should be looking at. Well, we're open to all of it.
I love those gardening tips, man. Those have been helpful.
Coming in.
I will say my 2 corns are looking good. I've been doubted, but
I've been doubted.
Coming in. Much like Tyrese
Nobody
Haliburton,
believed in my
corn was not overrated. Properly rated corn.
Have they even reaped corn yet? Have you even harvested?
They've been in the ground for like 2 weeks, but they're sprouting.
But he's confident.
Yeah,
I'll send you guys photos.
You're like the December, January Cavs right
corn.
now. Like you're getting way ahead of yourself, buddy.
The nobody believed in us gardeners. That's me. All right, let's wrap it there. Thank you to Isaiah Blakely. Thank you to Ben Cruz. We'll be back sometime in the next couple days. We'll talk to you then. Must be 21 plus and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.